Welcome everyone to the Learning to Birth webinar series, where we interview some of the world's most interesting and inspiring thought leaders on birth and pregnancy. And today we have with us Irene Chain-Kalinowski. Hello, Irene.
Hi, great to meet you all, and I'm so excited about being able to speak with you today.
Oh, we are all excited. It's incredible that you're here. I'm going to introduce Irene so we all know her background and why it's amazing she's here with us. So Irene has practiced midwifery for 38 years and taken more than 1,000 women through the continuity of care program as a New Zealand midwife. She is a homeopath, nurse, author, lecturer, Foreign Expert Maternity Service and Midwifery Advisor and Associate Director to the Modern Maternity Services Systems, MMSS in China, and Director of Operations for My Body, My Baby Enhanced Prenatal Global Education Project. This is all amazing, Irene. Can you tell us your background and how you came to be in this amazing position to be impacting birth around the world?
Well, it all started 38 years ago when I was nursing, and I wasn't really happy being a nurse because of the structured system, and I didn't feel as though I was doing very much. And my grandmother used to give me her birth stories because she birthed 13 babies in Poland. She was the baby catcher in the villages, yeah. And my sisters had their first babies in hospital in England because they were refugees when they came to England. And they had their first babies in hospital and refused to go back. And I didn't understand what it was all about.
Yeah.
But they had their following babies at home. And they're 12, 13 years older than me. So it was kind of really awesome that I got to be at the home births with them. And then I said, right, I'm going to be a midwife. And my sister said, no, go and join a bank. Because you want to see what they do to you in there. So I actually took up midwifery, and when I got in there, it was blinking machines, and I used to think, oh God, these wouldn't be better if they're delivering the lift. You know, this is not how I anticipated that my training was going to be.
Yeah.
Well, I went on this journey to try and give more compassion and to change it, to change this tunnel vision of teaching everybody the same. And I think it may be my parents, because my great uncle was a faith healer, you know, grandma was the baby catcher, my mindset was already wide open. Mother taught me to be very independent and look out the box because they went through the war, so it's their survival. So then, having worked in England for a while, I ended up going to America because I was married first time, and I ended up working over the border in Mexico because you couldn't do midwifery in America, and a lot of the natural therapies were looked down upon. So I found a guy that did natural therapies in Ensenada, and I used to trip across there every day over the border. And I saw such wonderful things. I saw war wounds healed, emotional problems, ulcerative colitis, all these things healed naturally. And I was only 21, yeah, so already that was implementing things into me. And I remember reading a book about diet, yeah, and how it can affect the body. I can't remember the author, but that book has appeared quite a few times on my journeys. So then I went back to England knowing that there was a different way, even though I couldn't practice what I'd seen. So then I had an opportunity to go and work in the Middle East, yeah. So in England, we were having C-sections, but I was on a midwifery-led unit in England, and we were with women, but it was still like a conveyor belt, and you had to speed birth up and to move it forward, and I wasn't happy. So I went to the Middle East, and I was very, very lucky because I ended up commissioning a hospital. And at that time, the Bedouin ladies were just being driven to birth in hospital. So when those women came, they could birth beautifully. And most of them without any help because they all were confident in it and they were all home birthing before, yeah. So it was quite amazing. So these women would come and the grandmother would be there and the mother would be there and they would just take over and do what they wanted to do. We just stood by. you know, and just stepped in if they needed it. And we never saw any major complications. And the birth rate was something like, normal birth rate was about 89%, 90%. Yeah, we hardly had a baby on a neonatal unit.
Yeah.
So I started to question things. Why is it okay here? And why is it not okay in my country? So then I went back to England and I worked on a midwifery-led unit for about 8 years. And then I went back to Saudi Arabia and found, oh my goodness, the intervention rate was higher, the C-sections were there, women had walking epidurals. And I'm saying, what's happened? So I actually wrote a book, The Three Blind Mice, A Midwife's Tale. And it's 3 magical mice takes 3 midwives on a journey around the world to save childbirth, and they magically jump in and out of time frames. It's the only way I could tell the story. so they end up saving childbirth at the end of the day, but they go through everywhere. They go through the Middle East, they go through America, the hills of Ohio, they have a water birth on a boat. So for me, it was, my storytelling is able to tell the truth, but use characters to be able to do it. So it's an amazing book, and I think midwives should actually read it, and women should read it too, because it will really highlight how birth was and how it is and how it should be.
It sounds like you're a real people's champion for kind of saving like traditional childbirth. That's an interesting story about Bedouin. I have a friend who his grandmother traditionally, like, she was Fijian, and she was, it was sort of like just discovered as she was like going into menarche, like she would be the new midwife of like the tribe on the island, and she ended up moving to London. And my friend tells a story, like, because he grew up and he'd be in her house, you know, as she was an old woman. He tells a story how all the local like Fijian women who knew her would just go to her house to birth, right? And he'd just be in another room as a little kid, and no, like, there'd be no crying, no screaming. No. Just the women would come in and birth, and she would know how to touch them. And like, you know, an hour or two later, they would walk out with a baby, you know. And that was one of the stories he told me of, you know, of London, and how the ladies that went over there to birth traditionally with his grandma, and it was amazing. Yeah.
Well, we didn't know much about hormones then. We didn't know much about the birthing hormones at that time, yeah. But because in our countries we would give an injection of pethidine or something like that for the women without thinking about it, yeah. But there, you didn't need to, and you saw these women, and when you see them in this endorphin state, their eyes are rolled, and it looks like they've had a night out on the tiles. And I was thinking, it's just so beautiful, and the husband's touching the wife, saying, "Is she okay? Is she okay?" Yes, this is just perfect. And it's so sad that we don't get to see this in our hospitals, because women are not given the opportunity to do that. So that was one of the biggest things I learned. I learned birth from those Bedouin women and from those women, and I learned about birth from my practice in New Zealand. Yeah, so when I left Saudi Arabia the second time, I got a job by fax, and I ended up in New Zealand. And then I ended up working in the hospital system again, but it was just like, it was a long time ago. It was maybe 25 years ago, and it was very medicalized. It was, you know, doctors were discharging women from the hospital. For me, it was still, it's not where I wanted to be. And then I met up with an old colleague of mine that was an independent midwife. She says, "Come out into independent practice," yeah. And, you know, by chance, well, I'd had bowel surgery, and I could have kept my bowel. So another reason I looked at holistic care and went into homeopathy. You know, I was given lots of laxatives, and actually it was stressful relationships and the diet that I changed that created the problem. So I had this big bowel surgery, and ended up delivering the daughter to the guy who ran homeopathy courses in New Zealand. It was the Auckland College of Classical Homeopathy. So I took up homeopathy, but it also fixed me. It helped me and centered the mindset. So once I had homeopathy on hand, I realized I could help so many women emotionally, yeah, and also support the normal process using natural approaches so they can really celebrate birth. Yeah. So in the beginning, when I was working with women in New Zealand, my C-section rate was higher because I was still adjusting from this medical model. Yeah. Once I mastered the diet and I observed those women, continuity of care sees that birth can build up over a week. It doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, so lots of patience, women go on the boil, off the boil kind of thing. But having that patience and using things like homeopathy, chiropractor if the baby's not in the right position, you know, get this woman healthy and radiant and see how beautiful she can look. Yeah. So that was my mission. So in 20 years of observation, I could see things. I could see at 28 weeks there's a lot more fluid around the woman, right? So, and it's quite normal at this stage, but women who were eating the wrong diet, they had extra fluid, and I'm saying, your waters are going to break. You need to cut this out. You need to change your diet. So I learned a lot about changing diets. Yeah, stretch marks. You can look at stretch marks. Yeah, well, stretch marks are where women are lacking zinc and protein. Yeah. So if zinc stretches the skin. Yeah, you need protein for muscle tone and magnesium. You don't get contractions if you don't have zinc and you don't have magnesium. Zinc triggers the nerves and the magnesium triggers the muscles. So together they work to give contractions. So if you don't have this in your diet and enough protein, you can't get good contractions. You're going to have a long birth. Yeah.
I can't begin to tell anyone like how important in my own journey, my own healing journey, like after my first son, how important zinc, magnesium, and learning how to eat enough protein, you know, particularly during my like the years when I've been vegetarian, like learning how to do it, learning how to eat, where to get food. It's so important. Now we're going to go into the real nitty gritty, and you've got so many years of wisdom and experience, and really, you know, find some ways for the women who are listening and families listening today to find that beauty in that birth, and, you know, unleash their extraordinary self through their whole birthing journey, and feel that, you know, sense of real connection to themselves and their babies. So I guess, what can a woman do through like your wisdom? What can a woman do to really get in touch with that whole mind-body connection that can be so important during pregnancy and birth?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to center yourself. You know, you've really got to deal with what's going off in your life, what's happening around you, what makes you tick. Homeopathy goes into what makes you feel better, what makes you feel worse, how do you manage it? Yeah? So need to ask herself these questions and find the coping strategies to center herself. Yeah, we're so used to going out and taking 2 Panadol for a headache, but we never say, well, why are we getting the headache? What's making this happen? Yeah, in homeopathy, there's 200 different types of headaches, you know, with different sensations and different reasons for it coming. So as a holistic homeopathic midwife, I help women get to the center of who they are and to learn about their system.
Learning how to follow what's pleasurable is so important, because I think as women growing up, we learn how to serve, but we don't learn how to serve with like in a pleasurable direction. Like we do service that's not pleasurable, and that hurts us. And I think part of growing up as a woman and growing up as a mother is to learn to honor what we find pleasurable and keep doing that, you know, keep following, you know, follow your bliss, as the hero's journey, you know, creator says. So follow your bliss.
Live in the moment.
Yeah.
Live in the moment. Yeah. The other part is I get women, okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about morning sickness here. Yeah. Because now if a woman's got a really healthy vitality, yeah, most will get morning sickness and they'll throw up and feel better. Yeah. But just think of what a woman goes through when she first gets pregnant. Yeah, just think of her mindset. Losing her independence is a big issue for a lot of women. Is she going to be a good mother?
Yeah.
Has she got support around her? I've got no support. Yeah. I think I found about 25 different reasons why what women think about. Yeah. For some women, the thoughts, money, finances, how we're going to feed this baby. These are all natural things that, but in homeopathy, we have the remedies to help them bring that in balance, because it's normal for women to think that way, but it's not normal if it gets out of balance and you're losing sleep and you're feeling more sick.
Right.
Yeah. So what we
like, what role does emotions, like, how do we learn how to manage and like emotions over, you know, pregnancy and birth and everything?
Well, it's kind of learning breathing techniques, for example, you know, the meditation breathing, you know, take a long breath in, you know, hold it, you know, and then when you blow out, you just blow out all that negativity with that breath. You know, just center yourself when this happens. Breathing's a great thing. It's the best way to oxygenate your baby.
Yeah.
You know, I teach women to use the acupuncture point here when they're breathing. It's the resuscitation one, just under the nose here. So if you're tired, you do your deep breaths in and out and push on that point. And if you're tired driving or anything, it will boost the energy to your system.
Because I feel it at the top of my head, like that release.
Yeah, it's uplifting.
Yeah.
Really uplifting. So when we learn all these techniques and we learn how to manage ourselves in very simple ways, it doesn't cost a lot of money. It just takes your finger.
Fingernail. Let's just say it doesn't really work with a bit of a fingernail here.
You know, they vets use it to resuscitate animals. You know, why don't we know about these things? You know, this is what we need to learn about. You know, the other thing is there's beautiful meditation out there. I think, you know, finding that space for yourself, listening to some meditation, lots of it on YouTube, lots of it. You know, I think I like, when I had lots of issues, I think Paul Santisi does a good one called Mind Silence. So it actually centers yourself, and you know, you've got your subconscious and your conscious brain. So if the conscious brain's talking to you all the time and it just doesn't shut up, you just go crazy with it, don't you? But if you can stop those voices and center yourself, because that's your inner soul, that's who you are. Yeah. So meditation can stop all that, so you're truly centered and you're making the right decisions for the right reasons. And I teach the hospital staff to do this because it supports them when they're making decisions in hospitals too. They're not making emotional decisions, they're making centered decisions. Okay, so that's really important. It's part of our MMS training. We teach that. We kind of do sessions where people learn to be open. I think some women may be the reserved type of woman and she can't express herself. You know, she will sit in the toilet and birth by herself and not want anybody in there. There's nothing wrong with that if the birth's coming. Yeah. But if it's emotional, yeah, she's going to hold the birth up. So we can use a homeopathic remedy to help her with that, to release that trigger. Yeah. You know, when I teach homeopathy to the midwives and obstetricians, they'll realize that this woman needs her personal space. So don't walk in that bathroom because the contractions will stop. Yeah? Some women are better for birthing in water. Some women can't stand the water, so don't run the bathtub for everybody. Women are beautiful, unique individuals. Yeah? And when we understand our personalities and we can communicate with them and connect and help them connect with themselves, birth is so much better. The outcomes are better. Health's better.
Do you want to tell us, because it is incredible to hear about it, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you are doing with MNS in China and like the impact that you're having over there, like on millions of lives of women?
Well, when I first came to China, we were training and hospitals were sending their staff and their obstetricians to us, to our classrooms. We did do face-to-face training, but we found it was kind of targeted training. Okay, so what would happen is the midwives, the obstetricians, they'd leave feeling very, very passionate, but they'd come back 1 year later saying, well, we can't do it because the systems are not supporting us. Why? So that was Jenny. And Jenny got together, her name's Manchu, and she's this amazing person. said, right, we're going to put an entire system together and we're going to go in and train an entire system. So we do. We go into the hospital and we do face-to-face training, and it's 2 months hard work, yeah? So we take the obstetricians and the midwives and the pediatricians, everybody comes to the class and they learn prenatal education in a holistic way. We have 8 modules. So, of course, with the midwife clinic, first of all, everyone has to be holistic prenatal educators. That's rule number 1, yeah? But the whole hospital team come, and they come in the evenings. We're lecturing till 10 o'clock at night. So everybody's trained, the same philosophy, the same way. Diet in pregnancy shouldn't change, but when you teach diet, you've got to teach it in relationship to the woman's anatomy and physiology and childbirth. So it's no good just saying, no, go out and eat some zinc and protein, and they're not really knowing why they're doing it, because it doesn't make sense. But if you can say to someone, the zinc and the protein is important for your skin and your muscle and your perineum, and you'll get less tears, and this is what it does, this makes sense, and this is where prenatal education should be. So we teach the medical model. We update everyone with evidence-based practice. We bring some experts in to do that, and also I do a lot of training in that. But the key is traditional philosophy is like to love and nurture everybody and to nurture the women. It's very important. Yeah. We bring in traditional practices. So we have acupressure, they learn massage, they learn aromatherapy, they learn the basics. I've put combinations of homeopathics together because it's very difficult for a midwife who's not trained as a homeopath to know exactly which remedy to give. So we've put combinations together to support the birth process, to support the woman postpartum, to support every complication that is going to support her natural process, even coughs and colds. Yeah. So we teach them those skills. We teach continuity of care. It has to be continuity of care, but it can't be in all areas for women. But what does work is that the woman sees the same midwife or she sees the same obstetrician. We've introduced midwife clinics in our system. We don't have doulas. Yeah? The family are the doulas.
Beautiful. It sounds like Joan is on the way almost to being like one of the, like a leading center, like in holistic birth in future. If it continues.
I think MMS is going to take it forwards, but we have issues too, because I've cried in these hospitals. I've cried in many hospitals where husbands aren't with their wives. Yeah. Or support people come to the woman, but they're not really supporting the woman because they're not taught how to do it.
No.
Yeah. So the support people, when they come with the woman, needs to be someone that she chooses that is interested in learning about her journey, how to support her during birth, and be there for her. Yeah. So in MMS, what we've got is that the husbands and the sister she's chosen, or the grandmother, have these skills to do basic massage and acupressure. The midwives don't need to do anything unless birth moves. Yeah,
it's a beautiful way of family bringing birth back, birth knowledge back into the general community. Because have a doula where you need a doula to be there as your support and during a birth. But if the whole society can be a doula for you, then that's a much more powerful thing for society. Yeah.
Yes, and the idea is to teach those families, because those families will teach their families, and their children growing up will already not be afraid of birth like our systems are. Yeah. Our women are scared of birth.
Oh yeah. I was in my first.
They're very scared. They go through, like my niece cried a year. That's why I wrote My Body, My Baby. She cried for a year after her birth. She went in for a check. Now remember, we all come from home birthers and strong birthing genes. Yeah. But she went in and they interfered too early, and then she spent 24 hours with a drip and ended up with a C-section and cried. So her next birth was at home in Australia with the midwife. She had a VBAC at home.
Yeah.
Well, then the midwives were not supported.
No.
Yeah, because she needed some prescription, or she had a nasty vaginal tear down there that I went over and I fixed with, with homeopathy and natural things. So on the two hands, it's like, women, we can do much better for our women. We need to do better, and we need systems to support the woman no matter where she chooses to birth. And hospitals should be like a home birth. It doesn't even matter if it's high risk.
Yes.
If they're high risk, you're going to take a blood pressure, you're going to observe the woman, but why can't it be a homely environment?
Yeah.
These are the things that we're bringing into China. But it's not easy, because in 1929, China had the medical model. The missionaries came to teach Western medicine. Yes, so the whole of China took over the Western outlook that birth's dangerous, and tried to push out the natural therapies and the homeopathy and things like that. So when I go into hospitals, you can't be angry because there's a woman there without a husband, or this midwife's doing something, because they are genuinely beautiful people, but they're just trained wrong. The training's not right. But when we go and change those mindsets, they do so much better, and women are happy. And we've reduced C-sections now to 10% in some hospitals.
Wow.
Yeah, but the problem is it's difficult in the big cities. Yeah, because we've got a very strong medical hall. So at MMS, we've gone to the outside. We've gone to the remote areas where women still birth in the hills, yeah, and there's still Chinese traditional medicine, and we've put it all together. So now we've got 3 hospitals, yeah, and it's growing. It's growing very quickly. We've got our big conference coming up in November, and the women come, the pregnant women are open doors to come. And when we teach our obstetricians and midwives about birth and preparing for birth, it's the same language as we teach the women. So we invite the women and their partners to come to this training. Yeah. So the midwives and obstetricians are listening to the voices of the woman and her husband. So we're bringing reality back into it, and that's very important.
It sounds incredible. You and I are going to have a talk about this again in a few years or whatever, and find out what's happened, what's changed, and get that latest update. For the women who are getting ready to birth now, you've mentioned diet. Talk to us about diet and how a woman can prepare herself to birth well with diet.
Okay, diet's it's one of the most important things, diet and optimal positioning of baby.
Yeah.
But there's a thing, don't make it hard, don't make it complicated. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you eat meat or you don't eat meat. There's just as much iron in lentils, for example. Lentils have got the magnesium, the zinc, the protein in. Eat lots of them and keep your plate colourful. Yeah?
Yeah.
But keep away from the refined carbohydrates.
Oops.
Yeah. Yes, I know these women have sweet tooth, and it's like the rice and noodles, and because what happens is that when you eat a lot of the refined foods, the rice, the pasta, the noodles, you don't only, some of you can burn it off, that's fine, but you're throwing your insulin levels up and down, right? So you're going from like, oh, I'm really full and the blood sugars are higher. So when they're high, you feel like you get depressed, you feel sleepy, you're tired. And the next thing, you kick out so much insulin, it drops to the bottom. So the next thing, you're hyper and you can't sleep. Yeah. But when you eat a plenty of balanced protein, your blood sugars are stable, and so are your emotions. And you grow a baby proportionate in size to you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that's the main key, is that you need, I always say, I draw a plate and split it into 3 parts, 1/3 protein, 1/3 healthy vegetables with some natural carbohydrates in it, yeah, and the other one I just think, well, you just blend it with a little bit extra so you've got plenty of iron.
Yeah.
So just keep the plate full and antioxidants. You know, you need antioxidants. The berries, uh, the berried fruits are much better, or the apple or the pear. You know, if you eat too many sweet fruits, you know, women are going to supermarkets and there's all these fruits out there.
Yeah.
Go back to the time when I grew up, my grandmother lived till she was 101, you know, my mother was 99, yeah. We only ate the fruits in season, so we might only have an apple or a pear. We didn't go and eat about 10 pieces of fruit a day, right?
Yeah.
Fruits are high in sugar, so if they eat the vegetables, then they get just as much vitamin C from the vegetables and the lentils as they do the fruit.
Yeah.
And they get as much fiber from the lentils, yeah?
Yeah. We
Yes, so
during my first pregnancy, I was vegetarian and I didn't know about protein, anything like that. And then I found after the birth, like I could barely like crawl along the floor. I was like fibromyalgia, like it's awful. And you know, I like what you're saying about the lentils. Like I never learned until you know, after that birth and in that journey of healing over the next few years, like the Western Price method, you probably know of, like soaking your legumes, soaking your grains and things to I think it's to release the phyto acid or something. There's like an anti-nutrient in it that if you don't soak it beforehand, it like it doesn't let you access the nutrients and the proteins. So that was just me and my experience. And so since then, when I've done that, I've just, you know, been a lot healthier and just been just so much stronger. And
yeah, well, I feel great here. I've got a little slow cooker here and I just throw all the lentils in it. And when I know when I've had a day of eating lentils, I feel great.
yeah,
You know, I've got more energy. I feel much better.
it does.
So it's about if the women should ask themselves, do I feel tired half an hour after eating a meal?
Yeah.
Or an hour? If I do, I'm eating the wrong foods. Yeah, because food should give you energy, and you should feel light but yet full.
And that's so important during labor because, you know, particularly your first birth, it can go longer. And it's like you're an athlete and you have to be able to endure those hours, and you might not really want to eat maybe a bit of toast or something. And
You know, women. Yeah, well, women who eat healthy foods with the zinc and the protein and the magnesium, yeah, they've got beautiful stretching perineums. They hardly tear.
Let's talk about tearing.
No.
What can a woman do during birth? Because I mean, Dr. Michael Klein and I had a really good discussion about, you know, health down there and everything, and what his work, what he's done to reduce the rate. You know, he said, you know, women still, you know, and I have tear. So what can women do to prepare to sort of, you know, help that?
Well, to keep it minimal, because we can't prevent some tearing. It just happens. It just depends on situations. But the diet, they've got to start eating that healthy diet, the protein, the zinc, the magnesium.
Yeah.
In Auckland, for example, I did a bit of research on Asian women because there was a higher percentage, I think it was 1 in 8, I think, Asian women at the leading hospital were having 3rd and 4th degree tears.
Oh.
Yeah, my episiotomy rate was a little bit higher. And I had to, in New Zealand, we have to do a midwifery standards review and reflect on our practice every year, which is a great thing that midwives need to reflect. So I kept saying, okay, why is my episiotomy rate a little bit higher? You know, and because 69% of my women were from India, they're Asian women. Yeah. So I looked at their statistics and says, oh my goodness, but I don't have as many 3rd, 4th degree tears, but I've got a few extra episiotomies here. So when I looked at it, that's when I started to ask the women, what foods are you eating? Yeah. As soon as I changed the diet, in the beginning, you know, sometimes if it's been a bad diet for a long time, you can't fix it overnight because the damage is done. But for most of it, you can fix early if you really eat those healthy foods. So I found that my episiotomy rate really dropped dramatically to no needing, because it must have been my experience telling me when I have to and when I don't have to. Yes. And I don't like it because I think women have to retain their sex life. Yeah. So every decision you make, you know, about birth, you know that she's got to live onwards and have sex after it. So you don't want to be cutting everybody's bottom or looking at these 3rd and 4th degree tears, which many can be prevented just through that diet. And I would say at the end of pregnancy, just take a little bit of extra zinc and magnesium supplement and up the protein in your diet, yeah, to give you this real supple, stretchable skin. The minute you see stretch marks, think, what's going off here, yeah? The tummy should be nice and toned. It shouldn't, if you can feel the entire baby through your tummy, you've not got enough muscle.
Yeah. It's it was a revelation to me after my birth, and I went to see a lady called Heather Bruce from Easy Babies who is also doing a webinar here with us, and she told me about zinc tests at your local chemist. I was like, whoa, blown head. And I went and did a zinc test. And I was like, you know, it's just a taste test. If you can taste it, I think, yeah, if you I can't remember what it was, but like I was like totally lowest on the low, like on the rating. And it was a revelation just, and my life over the last 12 years of incorporating like things like zinc and magnesium and being conscious of those things. My life has so much changed because of these things. I'm a total
Yes. So important for them. And the other thing for the tears, of course, it's the birthing positions. You know, it just depends how strong the contractions are, because the baby, if the contractions are very strong, she doesn't want to be upright because they can push the baby through too quickly.
Yes.
There needs to be more hands knees position. Yeah, so we teach the midwives all these different positions according to gravity and what the contractions are doing to help support the women as well.
The positioning, is that when you mentioned baby positioning, you're not so much talking about the baby in the pelvis, you're talking about the position the mum takes during birth.
The position, to birth, usually hands and knees is like a neutral position, or left lateral is a neutral position, so there's not too much pressure. You know, sometimes if a woman's got really, really strong contractions and she's in a squatting position, baby might come just a bit too quick, So these are the things that we teach the midwives to observe for, because every woman's different. So you can't tell every woman to birth hands and knees, and you can't tell every woman to birth in different things. Women will find their own positions, but sometimes you can make suggestions to support them. Yeah. The other thing is I would take some ginger.
As a mum, you feel like you know where you want to move when you're giving birth. You feel it.
Of course.
Your pelvis is a certain shape. Each baby's a certain shape. They're all different. You can feel how it wants to come out. You know.
Yeah, well, we can talk about positions later, because if she feels the baby's on this side, she can do her own positions to change it. We teach the positions that she can actually do to rock the pelvis backwards and forwards and do some hula hoop and put one leg up on a chair and whittle it over, you know. The thing is that the women come into birth and they think, the doctors in my days will put the drip up if the baby's in a bad position to try and bring the baby through. But the truth is the baby's got to rotate. So if they make the contractions too strong, the baby doesn't rotate. And this is why we get these long births or problems with births, So the only person that can change the baby's position is the woman.
Yeah, how we move. Yeah.
Yes, be ambulant and move and roll around and dance and swing and bring your music and all those things, Births should be fun and should be memorable, you know. Most births, if we leave it alone, I wrote all my books at birth because I didn't have to do very much. Women don't need vaginal examinations, you know. Most of them, the baby's either coming, you can see, a good midwife can see if the baby's coming down or not. The mother can feel herself. She can feel the baby move down. There's no reason she can't feel the baby. So what do we
let's just say
in there for?
The baby has moved down. There is no question. When the baby has moved down, you know. It's just
yes, absolutely.
Has the baby moved down? No, because it's just like so much pressure.
So these are things that we all teach the midwives. We teach the obstetricians normal birth. The obstetricians here have normal birth, and they can palpate the women. And I've got the obstetricians standing up and they're rocking the hips and doing this, and they're teaching the women to do this. Now, how many obstetricians in Australia and the rest of the world teach women how to get optimal position of a baby?
Incredible. I mean, and I think that's, you know, we're so quick you know, in our modern age, to say that any sensation that we're feeling is painful, and then the medical response is to treat the pain and relieve that pain.
Feel the pain.
And really, you know, it's pregnancy, you know, all through pregnancy, you're feeling new sensations, and you just have to learn that a sensation does not equal pain. You know, whether or not it's pain, it's like whether you see it like that, and you can shift that in your head. And as long as you're willing to embrace it and go, that's a sensation, what can I do with that? And you're willing to keep moving with it.
That's right. Well, pain's fear.
Yeah.
Pain's fear, and you know, we're throwing out adrenaline here. The baby's trapped; it can't move. You know, so pain is fear. So women remove that fear and they understand their body. And I hope we can talk again at a later date, because if in my body, my baby, it teaches them, you know, how to move and how the contractions build up. Yeah. And, you know, once we remove that fear, that women cope, they cope perfectly well. You know, and we teach midwives, the midwives to do a little hypnosis, eye-to-eye contact. We teach the partners to do it, to get rid of that adrenaline phase when it steps in. Yeah. So they know how to breathe, they know how to make eye-to-eye contact. We use the homeopathy, we have a fear and anxiety remedy. We have a combination birth mixture that helps the woman prepare for birth and removes that hidden fear, because as birth comes up towards those last months, especially the last month, there's quite a bit of fear about it, so they can even stop themselves going into labor.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So we use the homeopathy to help them with that subconscious fear as well. You know, all these things help. Evening primrose oil at the end of pregnancy, I've used it for 20 years on women. You know, perfect, because it helps. It's got GLA in it, for example. Yeah. So you need GLA to produce your hormones, and prostaglandins are a hormone, and so are the endorphins. So taking evening primrose can reduce the pain.
Yeah. Anyone who said to me, I'm worried about my baby coming late, I'm saying take evening primrose oil. What I did, I took maca powder as well. I mean, you might not know about that. For me, that worked. It was my babies came on time both times, because I feel it's because I knew I needed to trigger that progesterone. So I took the things that I knew would have it in there.
Yeah, so I've put a little handbook out there with the names of the remedies. I haven't got the actual remedies that's in them. Yeah, it's a free handbook we can give to the women.
Yes.
And they can get it, and it tells them how to take it, what to do, right? Yes. But they shouldn't just take it if there's any other medical problems or if there's a low-lying placenta. But it's all in that handbook, you know. Women are sensible, they're not stupid. Most women, you know, we're bright, we're intelligent women, most of us, yeah? Nobody wants to harm the baby. No. But they shouldn't drive the baby out. Don't take castor oil. Castor oil is the worst thing you can take without consulting anybody. You know, women take it because they want labour. But if their cervix is not ready, they might be past dates, but if their cervix is not ready, the placenta can come away.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a bowel irritant, so it irritates the bowel, which triggers the uterus, which is not a good thing to be doing, yeah? So I always say to women, you shouldn't really need to induce your own birth. You need to support your birth process. Homeopathy supports that process to ripen the cervix, tone the uterus. It helps your body do it. Yeah, it's the same with the primrose. Did you know that if you're missing GLA in your diet, if a lot of women, because of a poor diet or don't have GLA, and that's probably a reason that they do go late into labor. So if they take it from 36 weeks, or someone who's at 38 having a baby and needs help with a few hormones coming, evening primrose is great. You know, and I teach them here because they produce it in China. It's the biggest producer of evening primrose, but they don't use it for birth. And actually the history of it was farmed out a few hundred years ago when there was a famine, and they used it as a food. They made it as an oil to use in cooking. So if people have been eating it for hundreds of years, then we shouldn't be afraid of taking it.
My mother told me about it for my first birth, and you know, I
Mm.
swear by it. It was incredible, and I never ever had any of the issues or concerns about, you know, going over.
No, I find women's cervixes are much better, and so do the midwives. When the women have taken it, they're much stretchier and soft and supple. You know, they're
Well, look,
really helps.
you've heard it
Run
here.
out of time.
No. Irene is coming back later on we're going to do a proper webinar about how to remove fear and like together about all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my whole thing during my second birth, was that I knew that going into it, like, no matter what, I would not feel fear. And that baby came out of me in like less than 60 minutes because I just relaxed and I did nothing and she just popped out, you know.
Well, you know, I had a girl who had a previous C-section, and she was 38 weeks, and she came to me, and her mum was a homeopath, and they'd booked her in for another C-section.
Yeah.
And I looked at her feet, and I said, "Oh my God, you can birth! What's going on here?" And the poor girl, she just cried. Yeah. And I looked at her, and I just checked her body the way she was sitting, one shoulder lower than the other. I said, "Have you been in a car accident? Have you done something to your back? Because your body's not straight. And if your body's not straight, the pelvis is not straight." So the first thing I did at 38 weeks was send it to Katie, my chiropractor, who straightened the pelvis, yeah? Oh. So then we used the homeopathy and the evening primrose oil, and then the baby suddenly went from not being in the pelvis to going right down into it.
That's incredible.
Now, she went into labor at 41 weeks and 4 days, 41 weeks, 4 days. We birthed in the hospital, and just before she says, "They've booked me in for a C-section next week." I says, "We can cancel that, no problem. It's your body, you know." So we rang up and cancelled it and said, "Okay." Well, she came in and she only had a 5-hour birth.
Yes.
A normal birth. Yeah. Most of it is because they've been interfered with too early, or the baby's not in the right position. They're not getting the right observational skills for care because we've lost it.
Yeah.
We've lost it in our medical system because it's a blood pressure. It's go and get a lab test done. If that's not right, we'll do another lab test, or we'll give you some medications for it. But we're not teaching women.
No.
Telltale signs, protein deficiency, the woman's all dry around here.
Mm.
Yeah, right on the fingernails, all dry skin. Yeah, zinc, magnesium. Yeah. I'm drinking a lot of water, but I'm so thirsty. Well, it's probably magnesium.
Yeah.
And if you're not sleeping at night, magnesium's a remedy you need to help you sleep. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I can't sleep if I don't take a magnesium tablet before bed. I just simply can't sleep. That's how I'm like. I've had to, and I only learned that after having my son, and Heather Bruce telling me you need magnesium. All of this happening is lack of magnesium, and I didn't know why for 20 years of my life I was an insomniac. You know, like it was magnesium. It was incredible. It just changed my life.
Well, we're hoping to get the My Body, My Baby prenatal program online for women so they can access it. I think it's an important thing to do because it's a different way of talking about diet and preparing for birth.
Yeah.
And it's how to prevent things.
Yeah.
You know, women need to know about.
We need to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're women and we're even considering having a relationship in our lives and thinking about anything, I mean, this is something we need to learn about way before we ever, you know, are giving birth, or it's just basic in our bodies.
They need to learn about how the baby's blood doesn't touch the mother's blood, and how they need to grow a juicy placenta, and how to prevent a placenta previa before they go for a scan. When you go for a scan, it's too late. We can prevent placenta previas with diet, emotions. Yeah, we even have a acupressure point on the top of the head here to lift the placenta. It's right in the center.
Now that is wild.
Uplifted. Yeah.
Now let's go a little bit on the wild side, because I embraced that birth without fear for my second. I had a very different experience than what I was expecting. Like, it was an energetic experience. So do you want to talk to us about like chakras, pregnancy, birth? Like I've heard you mention before, this is all important. You want to give us an introduction?
Yeah, well, actually,
of Irene?
Yeah, a lot of birth, you know, the chakra system. I think the best book I ever read was Caroline Miss's book, Why Some People Don't Heal, and Anatomy of the Spirit. Yeah. So I use the chakra system when I'm caring for women. Yeah, but I use it in a different way because if they get urinary tract infections, yeah, and lower pelvic pain, and all the tests come back normal, I can say, have you fallen out with your husband today? And they'll go, how did you know? Yeah, yeah. Or the backache, yeah. And you can't see any reason, her structure, her diet's all good. And I'm saying, have you been worried about money this week? And she says, how do you know? Yeah, the body talks to you. Yeah, the abdomen. Yeah, it could be a woman going to work and she's, the bowel being affected. It's keeping up tribal influences, keeping up with the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those pressures come to the bowel.
They do,
Yeah,
like
the
whether or not
heart.
we pick it up a lot, like whether or not we feel as if we belong and are accepted. Yeah, it's all that.
Yeah, the heart, palpitations or funny feelings is like, well, who's hurting your feeling? What are you so sensitive about? Talk to me about it. Yeah. Throat problems, recurrent. Why can't you express yourself? Who's holding you back? Yeah. So when you understand these systems, we can help so many people. So it's a combination of homeopathy, the chakra system. We can help them move those fears.
Yes. The book that opened the world up for me about this, I read when my first child was probably 2, maybe 3. Louise Hayes, who's left us now, but Louise Hayes' book, is it Heal Your Body or something? But she goes through all the different ailments and like what you're telling yourself to create them. And I had a lot of different ailments back then, let's just say that. And I was like, wow. And and so my first, and so until then, I just focused on the nutritional side of magnesium, zinc, and then that opened up a whole new side to healing. That was, I can change what I say in there. Wow. And then that was just, that lifted the rest of the healing for me. Yeah.
Well, everything I learned never came out of my midwifery textbook. I've got one here. It's called Maggie Miles. I think we all studied from it, but I've never picked that textbook up since the day I studied. Since the day I qualified. I've never looked at it.
Yes.
Jenny bought one here, and I says, well, it doesn't tell me anything. It's a lot of theory.
Yes.
I don't need to know how blood cells are formed. I need to know what they do and what we need to keep them functioning, yeah? And this is what my women need.
Yeah.
So why is our training so complex and so medical? If I want to know any more about blood tests, I'll ring the hematologist up in the laboratory because that's his skill. But my thing is when we send women for blood tests, for example, it is to get them to have them normal. Don't wait till 24 weeks and do a diabetic test. Spend a few weeks eating the normal diet before you go. Then you'll not get labelized because they're going to come back normal. Yeah. So keep them normal. Keep your blood test normal by eating this food. This is the blood test they're doing at this time. Yeah. They'll do a scan, but let's prevent the placenta previous. Let's talk about this. Yeah. So everything should be preventative. And I think when women understand this and they become more confident because they understand their body. So that's the big part of fear, is they need to understand their body. Yeah. I look after many midwives and many obstetricians, and they don't even know how to heal themselves. So how on earth can they take these women through this? And women will come in and they will just do things because they're given a form or they're given this and they don't know how to question it. Yeah. And most of that stress comes at the end because the woman's never been in control. No. She's had no idea. And then when it goes to custard, these women take years to dissolve and it affects relationships and marriages. And we're not here to do this. We're here to support them. School, I'd love to see more training in school about this, about the diet, how it works with the body, not just learn biology, or what happens in it with no meaning.
I think that's the thing to really say in mind, is that birth, and pregnancy and labor, it's it can be a medical event if we want to interpret it in that lens, but really it's almost like a sport. And just like a sportsman has to eat well, it's that preparation, and
yes, preparing for birth, just what you're doing, learning to birth, learning about my body, just with your program. Because if they don't do that, at the end of my practice in New Zealand, I think it was 95% of women had normal birth. I rarely had to send someone for medical problems. Yeah, 4% did need a C-section or they needed support, but they weren't traumatized after it. I just had 2 out of the box cases that I couldn't prevent for all the money in the world. Yeah, but mother and baby were fine. Yes. So women need to know that there's always a small risk when we jump on an aeroplane or when we cross the road. Yeah. But it's knowing that I've done everything I can for my body and my baby.
Now, some women going into birth might be worried about, you know, is it painful? And I mean, and we've talked a little bit about, well, there are sensations. Do you want to maybe talk about how a woman going into birth might be able to reduce that pain or see it in a different way? Or what are your recommendations?
Well, I think the first thing to do is that we need to teach them about what really happens, how their contractions work in the beginning, the phases, like the baby's head going down in the early stages, so they understand what's happening. Okay. When they understand, like, oh, I do it like the traffic lights. I have a traffic light program, like, you know, red is the head going down, maybe a little bit of effacement, but not, because the contractions come very quick. You know, great, this is baby's head's coming down, and you need to move, you need to keep moving, it's not time yet. Yeah. The next bit is you'll get the big ones, the little ones. So you get the big one, which is probably a bit of effacement now, and little ones, still the head coming down. Yeah. So it's not time yet. Yeah. But the true ones do space themselves out, and the woman's face changes. She looks quite euphoric and quite drunk. So it's kind of coping with those early stages, lots of breathing. I say you breathe like you're blowing a candle out. So if you get a contraction, you've got those quick pains, you just keep doing that until it's gone. Yeah. And, you know, so kind of that. And if it's in the night and they can't get out walking, it's winter, get a birth ball and lean over the table and sleep in between it, head on a pillow, and just be patient. Yeah, be patient. So when women know that is happening, they're much calmer. Most of my women, we're going for a walk on the beach at this time. Yeah, they were taking the dog for a walk, go shopping. Yeah. Distraction, don't focus on it. Yeah, that reduces the pain. And it's just simply, and of course again I use the homeopathy, you know, to help them when they get the adrenaline surges. Yeah. You know, and the second phase is like I've said to them, do you feel ready? There's a difference between being anxious and going into hospital. Do you feel ready? How does your body feel? And women who are connected and they understand it say, I'm really ready to go now. This is time to go. Oh yeah, it's time to go. I'm not listening to you. Don't tell me to stay at home for another hour. I'm off there, you know? Yeah. So they know they're on their way. So, but because there's fear, women turn up with the slightest twinge. Yeah. And they're not connected with baby's movements. A lot of women are on the phone or they're out somewhere else, you know? So they're not centered. So when they connect and they know their baby's normal movements and how baby reacts and they talk and the baby gets to know the mother's voice, the father can sing to the baby. She knows her baby. She doesn't need to count the movements. She will come in saying, there's something wrong. You know, and as a midwife, if my woman said to me, there's something wrong, I would be in that hospital because I know there's something wrong. But a lot of midwives get burnt out because they're getting all these phone calls from these anxious women who don't know how to center themselves.
That was me in my second birth. I'd planned to sort of basically free birth at home, and because I did have an obstetrician though, but she knew my intentions. And I had wanted to birth at home with a midwife, but midwives were like, it's Australia. It was like, we can't do it because you got an obstetrician or whatever. You know, so I was like, fine, I'll just do it at home myself. I know how to do it. And then I just knew, I had that intuition I would have to go into hospital. And as long as I put that off and I refused, I'm not going to go to hospital, I just didn't even go into labor. Like I knew I was ready to birth, but the labor just didn't start. And then when I was like, I made that decision, yeah, I will go to hospital, I know I have to, that's when the labor started. And so I could go, and I did need to be there because of complications that happened.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's that real intuition. And I think that when you have that intuition, that gives you that sense of control over yourself. Like, you know yourself, and then you can remove that fear, and then you can just let things happen. And, you know, and it doesn't go as long, it's not as painful, you know, because you're not restricting it, you know, you're just.
Well, I think my sister, when she had her, I think it was her second child, it was the first one she was going to have at home. She said, well, I just got on the bus and I went shopping.
Oh my God.
He says, it's going to come.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, this baby's going to come out, what the heck, you know. She said, come, babies, they do come, unless we interfere with them, and if we drive them down, if we push them, if we race the birth, then they're not going to come, then they're going to get stuck. But usually it's birth, we blame pregnancy and birth for many things, but it's the way we manage ourselves.
Postpartum depression, how do we avoid it? What can we do to like reduce our risk? Or do you see that? Like, do you want to tell us about what your thoughts are on postpartum depression?
Well, postpartum depression is usually because, well, there's quite a few underlying causes. I can probably come through this as a homeopath, yeah?
That's fine.
You know, a lot of it is like, well, you can look at the Ignatia woman, for example. Now, the Ignatia woman is the one with the perfect birth plan, the perfect husband, the perfect house.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So when she goes into hospital and that birth plan doesn't happen, she doesn't get the perfect birth. Yeah? Yeah. Then you're going to get the depression. So some women put high ideals and not realistic ideals on what they plan to do. Yeah, so birth plans sometimes become too rigid.
Oh yeah. We actually have Catherine Bell, author of the Birth Map, talking about that, and how she actually developed the model of the birth map, which is more multidimensional, and you know, it has room for different, you know, pathways. So right.
So you've got that reason. Then you might have a mother who, if I look at the Natural Muriaticum one, is some women, I know that they're frightened of going out in the community. I had a woman who was orphaned, for example. She felt like an orphan. She didn't get on with her parents. She didn't want to go to mother and baby groups. You couldn't even connect with her husband when she was pregnant. So when I took a homeopathic case, I got this whole picture of her being orphaned, feeling orphaned and things, and I gave her a remedy called magnesium carbonicum. And after that, she suddenly felt kind of centered and connected again. And then she eventually went to mother and baby unit. So it all depends on what is behind the depression. So we don't only look at depression, we have to look at the complete picture of it. But a lot of depressions come from trauma in birth, loss of control. If women are in control and they understand their body and they're involved in every decision, and that midwife and obstetricians explains every bit of the way to them, depression's reduced.
It's actually interesting. I was reading a quote, I think, from Jim Carrey this morning that popped up on my feed, and it was basically like these are his words, not mine. This is not my idea; it's his idea. But his idea was that depression, we need to see depression as actually saying deep rest. You need deep rest now, because your body, your mind-body system is saying, however it is, whatever way you've been projecting yourself out there in society right now, somehow that is not aligned with you and how your body actually wants to be. So you need deep rest now to reset and then find out how you want to really be out in this world in a way that honors you.
And kind of, it's like, what is it about the depression? Where is it? We need to get to the real root. Okay, we've got the third, fourth day hormones where women feel really weepy and tearful. Yeah, if they take the birth support, it's got pulsatilla in it, and it's a special homeopathic remedy for the tears are endless.
Wow.
So can just pick that emotion up if they continue to take it after the birth. Again, it's talking about the birth experience itself. So midwives really need to talk with women, ask how it went for them, what is their perception of it. Yeah. Sometimes there is a deep depression. We used to see a lot of it in the older days when I was working on the wards. Women were in hospital for 10 days. And I would see women, very suicidal,
Yes.
not wanting to touch their babies. But when I used to sit on the beds, there was a young girl, and it was all about like family. She'd met this boy, she was 17, didn't know how she was going to manage. There was lots of pressures from the family on her, and she just couldn't cope with it, so she went into her world. Yeah. But I found that using homeopathy can help so many women. So women don't need a good homeopath can help these women. Also, meditation can help them too. Okay.
Yeah.
We can't change situations. Some women have abusive situations.
Yes.
And that's the reality. But you don't need to be punched in the face to be abused. It could be emotional abuse. Yeah, this is where we use the Staphysagrias. Yeah, and some women won't want to move. Yeah, they don't want to move. So we should never be judgmental, but always give support and always offer hand and talk to women about how they feel and ask about their relationships. We teach obstetricians here to ask, how's your relationship going? Or we get the young man who's not interested in the young girl and he's flicking away on his phone, and the obstetrician will say, now you can put that down. You're here for your wife. You have a responsibility. Yeah, women, some of these guys will come in and they're just looking around, or they're just sitting around, and they're not even there. They're not even present.
Yeah.
So we also need to say, you're going to be parents. And we need to have this responsibility going to us that supports the woman.
Yes.
My family in New Zealand, she threw the candlesticks through the window. She was depressed afterwards, and the poor guy was going around fixing the house, getting the lawnmower, and she didn't that. She just wanted a hug. For goodness sake. Yeah, she just wanted compassion. All those things didn't matter, but he thought his role was to do that. So I think, with women, I think they need to talk a little bit more as well before the baby comes about expectations, and they can have little plans set in line. He knows her, he should know her as well. So like maybe, she doesn't want to be massaged at birth. You can tell her husband that, I don't massage me, I just don't need it. You can understand it and it's all okay.
Yeah.
But we can't expect that every husband or every woman's going to want massage at birth, or she's going to want hypnobirthing, or she's going to want pampering, because some women don't. Independent women will birth on their knees and say, don't need you.
Yeah.
Or you get the pulsatilla woman who wants to hold your hand, and if you let go of it, her contractions stop. Yeah. So you have to be with that pulsatilla woman as much as you have to be with the independent sepia woman, or the woman who's very loquacious and can't wear tight clothing. Well, the worst thing you want to do is put a contraction belt on her tummy, because the contractions will stop.
That's right. Yeah. And I think going into birth and through your pregnancy, just honor yourself, honor who you are, honor your feelings, honor the boundaries that you want to have for yourself, and know that you deserve to state them and to stick up for them, and you can be you, and that's totally okay. How does a woman, like, what about the time after birth? Like, how can a woman debrief after birth? How can a woman sort of prepare for those, like what you've talked about, the days afterwards and the weekends?
Well, in New Zealand, we all are. It's a part of our training and our curriculum that we ask women how was the birth. We follow them up afterwards. So even here in our MMS system, if the obstetricians deliver the baby or the midwives deliver the baby, they will go and follow that woman up and say, how is it for you today?
Good.
How was it? How did it go? Yeah. So that they're open about it, and that we need to be more open, and women need to be more open with us when we visit postpartum visits, because often if women are silent and they don't tell us how they're feeling, we can't help them. Yeah. So there's a lot of inner silence. We need to be a family speaking openly to each other all the time to bring all this out, to prevent this depression or this trauma, because a lot of it can be fixed. Yeah. If I don't know I've done something wrong, or if I've done something to offend you, I can't fix it.
Yeah, pick caregivers though that you feel like you can have that open, trustworthy, like trusting relationship with, because if you can't speak your mind during the pregnancy without being, you know, judged or hounded on in some way, then you may be quiet after the birth, and you gotta, if you need to be able to talk after birth, you know, don't, it's just the same, it's the same person, like you gotta have someone that you have a good relationship with.
Even like when I had my practice in New Zealand, I think one of the first things is that, you know, I always had to say in my mind, can I be honest with you?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Can I be honest with you is what would always come up in our discussions, because you also have to talk about reality. But a woman needs options. You can't just say that, okay, you're in the diabetic team, so you've got to go to this clinic and you've got to do this birth test and you've got to prick your finger, and then the woman's crying, I can't prick my finger every day, I have to work on the computer. You know, she's getting stressed. Yeah. So I was saying, well, let's find different ways, you know. So I would say, how was the diabetic? Let's find a different way. You don't have to prick your finger every hour.
No.
You know.
Tell us about your books and the background to how you wrote them. What's the story?
Okay, well, as I said before, My Body, My Baby, I wrote because of my niece's bad experience in Australia. I think that was the highlight, and all my other nieces were having C-sections in England. Yeah, my great nieces from our long line of family. And I saw so much like autism, asthma, sickness that we never had. I come from a long living line of family, and depression too. Yeah. So I wrote the books, and My Body, My Baby just gives different scenarios and experiences so the woman can choose which way she wants to go. She can be Jane, Mary, Jo, but it tells her how to go it, and it teaches her about her body and the things she can do.
It's a book for mums to read.
Book for mums, yeah. My Body, My Baby was written for mums, yeah. And a lot of the music, because it's even got like how to manage the first few days, you know, at home, and support and tricks and tips for settling a baby and all those things in it. So it's got plenty in there for them, even if they want to have a V-bike, if they so it's just case scenarios of women's different options. You know, I've had women who's chosen the C-section because of psychological issues. Yeah, I've had a woman who the doctors wanted her to have a second C-section, but her husband was terminally ill with cancer, and she'd already got a little girl, and I said she's not going to cope with a C-section.
No.
Yeah. So I worked with her, and it was a beautiful story, because I worked with her, and we did all the right things. She ate all the right food. You know, first baby was breech. In those days, they did C-sections for breech. So we did all the right things. The baby's head was well down. She got to 40 weeks, and then she went into the hospital, and the obstetrician says, oh, you need a C-section. And I says, oh, my work's gone to custard, and this girl was scared again, so I had to bring another midwife in, and we spoke to her. And she had the most beautiful, normal VBAC. And the husband was there on Skype. He was present at the birth, and we brought him in afterwards on a chair to be with her. This is how compassionate our care needs to be. Yeah. So we need to be much more compassionate in our hospitals for women, to really work with these women, to support them through whatever. You know, for them to understand the implications of having ultrasound and the spin-off effects, the waiting for the tests to come, and the tests don't really tell you anything. You know, so it's like it's come back, okay, I'm high risk. Well, now you have to decide, are you going to let them put a needle in, you know, to your placenta? Then you've got to wait another 16 days for the results to come through. Yeah. And even that's not going to guarantee anything. So how do you feel about this baby? Do you want to go that way?
I can't, looking back at myself in my second birth, like I'm like in awe even of like myself, like, was that me? Because like I went into my obstetrician who I picked at the hospital I wanted to go to and everything, because, well, like if I needed to, like, I had the feeling I would, and you know, that's just triggered that memory in me of like me going into my obstetrician and me going, by the way, I'm not having ultrasounds. And she's like, oh, you really should. Nah, if you want to keep me as a patient, I'm just not having them, thank you. And I mean, I had my own reasons for that. I already knew inside gender. I didn't need it for the gender, and I was just like, if there's a, I don't know it, you know. But that was me as my second birth, and that was me knowing myself and my body, and that's not going to be everyone's journey. But you know, that's,
well, actually, we teach our midwives and obstetricians basic ultrasound skills. I use basic ones because sometimes that woman just wants to see her baby.
Yes. Oh,
so, you know, or if I'm turning a breech using homeopathy and positions, yeah, she doesn't want to go for an ultrasound somewhere. We can put the thing on and see if it's head or bum, you know. Just yeah, it's not hard to do, yeah. So they don't need those intense technical things, yeah. And I think we need to have a balance between our medical model and the traditional model, putting the benefits of women together to say that yes, we've got this technology, it's not going to go away, yeah, but we can make it better so babies aren't subject to long ultrasounds. You know, we can do a very quick, oh, your baby's fine, here's the fluid, here's the head. You know, I think that there's a lot of things we need to change in systems. I'm very excited here because I've just put together for Mengshu a complete new curriculum for midwifery training.
Wow. Okay.
So we've just got it on. It's on the side shelf at the moment because we've got a university here teaching midwives, and we're going to go in and advise on that training so that these midwives are trained with all these skills that I'm talking about today.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I believe that it's going to be a couple more years yet, but each year's getting better. It's been hard. It's been long hours working. Yeah. So this book,
show us.
One I wrote just last year with Jenny, with Mengshu.
Advanced Integrated Prenatal Care Manual for Midwives. Beautiful.
Yes, I put this one together because it's got the how-tos. It's got everything I've talked to you today is in here. Even I don't know, contraction patterns, how to understand your labour.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the holistic practices, it's got homeopathy, it's got aromatherapy in it. Women can read it themselves because I've written it in a very simple way.
Yeah.
So what I've done for women is I've put, we've even got the homeopathic remedies in the back of it, the mixes, what's in them. We've got, the women can read all about their blood tests and learn about them.
We'll be putting links to all of Irene's like relevant books and materials. We'll put it all in the content below. And tell us, Irene, you've actually got something, and you mentioned it before, like really special to give away to the people listening today. So tell us about what it is.
Yes, I've done a PDF. I've done a handbook of all the combination homeopathic remedies we use for women. Wow. Okay, it hasn't got the list of the medicines in them because the handbook will be too long. But what it's got is, it's got a number and it's got what it does. So you can fix your carpal tunnel, you can fix your backache, you can fix your morning sickness, you can fix your severe morning sickness, you can fix your depression, you can fix about just everything. There's 39 remedies, just to support women because that's what they need, as well as, and it's also got the little diet hints in there as well. And I've worked with Michael because we've just released it under the My Body, My Baby banner. And I've also been to New York because we just released, it's going to be official, I hope this month, it's taken nearly a year. We've put an entire online homeopathic course for midwives and obstetricians and doulas.
Wow.
And they're going to tap into that. And it's also got a lot of the information here. So it's not just homeopathy. It's about midwifery and the woman, and actually the woman can learn a lot from it too, you know. So the natural ways to get through birth, So we've done a lot of work this last year. I'm really excited. I'm going to New Zealand next month. We're going to talk to the Fabian Society because they're the innovators for change in New Zealand. So we'll have the public and women's health and things, and I'm giving an hour's talk there and having discussions to say why it's working so well in China and what they need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm wishing you so well, and we will definitely have Irene back here to talk to us about homeopathy and also about, you know, releasing our fears and giving birth without fear. Before we go, Irene, thank you so much for being here. I like to ask a question at the end that just kind of like is really open and kind of like releasing, but and I'm going to ask you, like, what can we, because this is your life, this is you doing it, but what can we, like, we do as women to inspire and support each other, like giving birth?
I think the most important thing is to get interested, to learn about birth. Learn about the real birth and the process of it, and get confidence in your body. Yeah, get confidence in your body, bring that together, because then only then when you understand it can you support it. Yeah. We can support one another emotionally as women. We need to do that, you know, lots of hugs and things like that. But when we understand our body, how it works, we can fix ourselves with many things. And each woman can share what they've learned and bring it together. That's how I learned. I learned from the women.
Yeah.
Every bit of information I'm giving to you came through being with women, listening to their stories. Yeah, it prompted me to do more research, to look at more things, lots of homework when you get pregnant for the woman and also the midwife. But when you bring that together, you women are the educators. You women are the only ones that can change the face of childbirth. Reclaim it.
We do. We
have confidence in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you walk into that hospital knowing that you can birth.
Absolutely. Thank you, Irene, for being here. We're so grateful. You have a lot of experience and stories, and we've only just like the tip of the iceberg today.
Yeah, so we go more in depth, and if you get feedback from the women, ask them what they want, and we can just throw something up. You get a lot of things come through, we can support it.
If you have feedback for, if you have questions or feedback for Irene, like on the Learning to Birth social media pages, everyone listening, you will maybe like, what's a good hashtag for Irene? We can hashtag my body, my baby, and like you know, tag Learning to Birth, and we'll get those questions to Irene, and we'll make sure Irene comes back and talks to us.
I'll answer them.
All right,
yes.
you, I
want to see every woman. I want to see every woman celebrate their baby and give those stories to those grandkids and those great grandkids. That's all I plan to do. It's been my whole vision.
We've got to tell our stories, and we've got to share them. Thank you, Irene, and have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll email you. Bye.